The two boys who weigh 38 have also got a problem because they want to put on a little bit of weight and get stronger. So they're working with a physical education teacher to put on some body mass, some fat-free mass, to do that program. But I think most of the schools seem to have a really good programs. Australia, Malaysia are working with their institutes of sport. Japan has had a great program for 15, 20 years. So that's working. It's when they get out into the industry that the problems start, and it's educating the industry and getting the right research and the right diets available that we're going to need to work on.
Well, that's exactly the point. We're talking about education. It's dedication that's really the key, isn't it? Because well, you've given them the information. The jockeys have got to want to be able to do and follow the advice that you've been giving. Susan Lee, you work for the Amateur Jockeys Association in Ireland. Obviously, a lot of amateur rider races over there. The weight's a little bit more than sort of 53 kilos. We're talking a little bit more than that. I'm not sure the exact figures, but it is a little bit heavier than I'm sure. And what sort of advice are you giving to the people that you work with?
Well, all of our amateur races would vary 10 stone 4 for the boys and girls, and the girls will start at 9-7 up to 11 stone, but the boys go up to 12 stone. So we don't really have any weight issues with the amateurs. Obviously there's bigger lads, but they have to sustain their weight, and the bigger boys are usually riding in pint to pints on a Sunday, so they need the weight, you know.
Yeah, obviously they do, yeah. But how many are you seeing any of them sort of really struggling and doing, again, some of the things that we've already talked about?
Absolutely, some of them would be doing things they shouldn't be doing, but all in all, I suppose our weights are fairly favourable, and they slot into a bracket, don't they, you know. You'll have lighter and you'll have medium and you'll have heavy, and they know what they can do. So it's not a major problem with us for amateurs. And
Sarah, you do the same thing in the UK, and obviously now we'll be working with the jockey coordination with these series. But in the UK in particular, it's something that quite bothers me actually. If I go into a weighing room, you'll see a big sign on the wall, do's and don'ts in terms of healthy things, but you'll see the jockeys' changing room where they have the food, which is provided presumably by the racecourses or somebody there. But again, it's probably nothing like what it's telling the jockeys. It's more the don'ts rather than the do's in the UK that we see.
Yes, we had a very good example of that at Newbury, didn't we, recently, which was on Twitter, which showed actually that the standards of racecourse catering are dubious in some places, sadly, which don't actually help the jockeys at all, in fact quite the reverse. And I also find that whilst we are all trying to educate people about what they should be doing as jockeys to eat sensibly, you then do sometimes see conflicting advice, in that I have seen on the Professional Jockeys Association website, they're suggesting that jockeys actually take sports drinks, which of course are laden with sugar, and I'm sure George would be horrified to hear that, because you can't beat water.
Well, we had this conversation, I think, in Abu Dhabi in November. Tony McCoy, who's the winning most jump jockey of all time, after he did his 4,000th win of the big front page of the Racing Post with him the following day with the big bottle of Lucozade, wasn't it? Mm. And we were talking with this last November with Franny Norton, that we'll call it flipping, making yourself sick in the UK, with the youngsters in particular, he's seeing it at an all-time high.
Yeah, and I think that even on the amateur scene at home, since they brought in the limit on overweight, where you cannot carry more than, well, you're not allowed to carry 4 pounds overweight. So therefore the amateurs are also taking their weight management more seriously now, where they find that they can't actually be allowed to ride, whereas maybe 3 or 4 years ago they could have carried 7 pounds over and got away with it, even though it might not have looked particularly good. So it's something which everyone is becoming more and more aware of as the world is becoming more and more professional.
And we've also seen with that, obviously, as a population as a whole, we are getting bigger, if you like, and we've had to see the minimum riding weight, certainly in the UK, and I'm guessing in a few other countries as well, raised.
Absolutely.
So there's some basic facts about it. We've got two sort of studies here, Dr. George Wilson and Dr. Jamal Hood, who've been working with jockeys and implementing specific diets for those. Dr. Jamal Hood, first, you're an NAET specialist. You've been working with some of the jockeys that have been riding in the the Sheikh Fatima series in Oman. Just tell us, first of all, a little bit about what an AAT specialist is.
It deals with the allergies mainly to the food items for the diet. That's what we do is usually doing a test for the jockeys so that we know what's good for him, what's bad for him. And this will allow him to eat freely with exercise and to maintain a good weight with a good health. And this is our aim. And we started this with the jockeys in Oman, and we monitored what they should eat, and we'll have this follow-up later on all the jockeys that are within the Sheikh Fatmi races.
And in terms of, I mean, how did it work? You test them individual, obviously, but in terms of what actually...
We do a personalized diet for each jockey according to what food items are good for him. And the testing is doing a muscle response testing, which involves the kinesiology study. It's secondary to the NATE, which is the allergy elimination techniques. And this is how we can determine what the food items are good and what are the bad things.
If you remember, if you were with us in Abu Dhabi, we had the test tube test,
We
but
demonstrated this.
we have some other demonstrations we can do today?
We can do one whenever we are done.
Okay, well, we'll do that. Actually, we better do that now, actually, because we've got these things here.
Yeah.
If you want to sort
These
of...
are improvised tubes because my main tubes are not with me. You want to do it yourself?
you can do, yeah, you'd have to tell me what to do, but yeah.
You have not to cross your feet. You are right or left-handed?
Right-handed.
So we have to use your right hand.
Okay.
Just we test his muscle power. Pull up again. And when he is in contact with an allergen, whenever he is allergic to, his muscle will weaken. And this is how it goes, the testing. So I'll test this. You have to touch it in your left hand and we'll check.
Okay, so hold it in the left hand.
Yeah. Yeah, he's holding it. No, you hold it in your left hand and we'll test your muscles on the right.
Okay.
If it weakens, it means he's allergic to this item. You will say if you have strength or you don't have.
Yep.
Whenever he's allergic to this item, his muscles is very weak. Okay?
Mm-hmm. So that in
we need to
particular.
test, this is, I think, pineapple.
Yep.
We can test this.
So we'll try another one.
Yeah, also.
So this
If
is
he's allergic
carrots.
to this, yeah, it will be weakened.
Okay. So you're
Try
telling me,
again.
so because of that, I would need to take, you wouldn't give me
You
carrots
need
in the
to,
diet?
yeah, for the time being, whenever you are going to the race, 2 weeks you need to avoid these things which are bad for you.
Okay, and why is it 2 weeks? Why would it not be?
But 2 weeks are enough to detox your system,
Okay.
to be more energetic, and you can lose, if you have a couple kilos you need to take out. It's very simple because your body is metabolizing what you are eating better, and you have a better energy.
Okay, so we look forward to finding out when we meet again the full results of these studies.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. George, obviously we spoke to you last year that this is what George Wilson, one of the guys from the Liverpool John Moores University, who've been doing a study for a couple of years now with some of the best jockeys in the UK, the likes of Franny Norton, Frankie Dettori, and plenty of other jockeys as well. We've been through some of the findings, but I believe you've got a PowerPoint presentation now. If we could just dim the lights a little bit so we can all see the slides of the findings that we've got from the last 6 months.
Yeah, oh, that's working, yeah, good. Yeah, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. My name is George Wilson, I say from the Liverpool John Moores University. From what's been said already on the panel, I think what's really important is we've heard from the racing schools, and obviously we've heard in situ exactly what happens in the weighing room, and obviously the good messages are there in the racing schools, and the best intentions are in the racing schools, but obviously the message is getting lost somewhere in reality, and we know that's a cultural thing. Anybody who's seen my research before, we know it's a cultural thing, like there's been in professional boxing before, or even if you go back 25 years in professional soccer, when footballers, you know, would be drinking alcohol at half time and things like that. And what I would like to see change before I do my presentation on my latest research, I would like to see the authorities put in place some measures that don't allow these deleterious practices that are bad for a jockey's health. So a jockey should be able to walk into a weighing room. As is now in the UK, a jockey can walk in a weighing room and weigh 56 kilos. He can then proceed to sweat down to 52 kilos, sit in a sweat box, what you call a hot box, Corinne, or run around a track in a sweatsuit, and nobody stops them. Nobody says a dicky bird. That is bad for your health. You imagine the pressure on your kidney and renal function, that dehydration, all those micronutrients that you're going to lose. Then that same person, that same jockey who has now just lost 2, 3, 4 kilos is expected to push half its sort of primed thoroughbred racehorse to its optimum performance. Hello, you know, you don't need to be Einstein to work out. That is not conducive to optimum performance. It would not happen in any other sport in the world. Why is it happening in racing today in 2015? That's what I'd like to ask anyway, before I go on to this. Right, so I've got a presentation here, folks. I hope you can see it. Can you see them slides here? Everything okay? Right, this is the latest bit of research what I've done. Thanks very much to the money from Lara and her organisation and Sheikh Mansour. What I was really interested in, and nobody had really looked at, and there was no peer-reviewed data, was the comparison between male elite flat jockeys and female elite flat jockeys, and how those strains, those stresses of trying to make weight every day, what the impact is, the pathophysiological impact upon their health. So are there differences in the health between male and female elite flat jockeys who have to try and make weight every day? Because this is the only sport in the world, folks, where you have to make weight every day. Boxers make weight 4 times a year, but their weight can go up and down. So this is my latest research. Now, if you can see from the slide, you'll see some faces that you probably know there. You can see Frankie in the corner we worked with. But also, we were working with the creme de la creme of elite flat jockeys. That's Hayley Turner. Probably, have you all heard of Hayley Turner? Yeah? Heard of Hayley Turner? Hayley Turner is the most elite flat jockey in the UK, female. So hopefully this will work. We'll see what happens. Right. We actually matched the group. There was 8 in each group, and we matched them for weight, which was important because we wanted it. We know that the guys are going to have more muscle mass, more lean mass, as you were saying before, but we matched them for weight. There was no significant difference just in their height. But as you see, their age, their height, and their weight, there was no significant difference. The farthest column is the significant difference. Anything below 0.05 is significantly different, and it's asterisked. But their race rides were significantly different in 2014. The male flat jockeys had significantly more rides. So straight away, there's going to be more pressure on them to make weight. So let's see what we found. Well, you may have seen some of these slides before I presented. This is a DEXA scan, which looks at bone density, looks at lean mass, muscle mass, and also looks at fat mass. I'll just give you the arrows to show you where you're at. This is from the latest study, which is unpublished to my work. There's bone, there's muscle, and on the outside, you might not be able to see it on the slide, but that's fat. Okay, and this is what we want to try and reduce to levels where jockeys can optimize their performance, but minimize their fat. We all need some fat, but there's a certain parameters that you can work within which keep us healthy. Now, what we found with the jockeys, as we found before, is that there's considerable improvement for reducing body fat when you compare them to other elite athletes. The male jockeys had approximately 13% body fat. If I was a 13% soccer player, I would be fined. They would not let you play professional soccer with 13% body fat. When I worked in professional football, and I've done some this year at a club in the UK, we set the minimum body fat at 10%. All our footballers were below 10%, and they were ripped. Okay, and they performed. The goalkeepers, a bit bigger, we let them go get away with 12%. The females were 20%. Now, for general population, 20%, you're going to look like a supermodel. You're going to look good at 20% body fat for female. But elite, other weight-making sports, female athletes, the female jockeys are too fat. There's no other way of saying it. We could reduce that. Not by much, but that'll stop them sweating anyway. If you look at the body fat percentage there, you see that the males are significantly lower than the females. We'd expect that because the males will have more muscle mass. But also, when you compare them to lightweight rowers, the females, they were a lot heavier. They had a lot more body fat. When you compared the male jockeys to professional boxers, they were way above them. I trained 4 world-class professional boxers. I won't name drop. Name drop, skip fall. I won't go into that, right? Professional boxers, I will have them fighting at 8% body fat. These jockeys are 13%. So why would some bodies with 30, and that's the average, some were 15, some were 10. Why would a 13% body fat jockey, why would he need to get in a sauna to drop a kilo? Why doesn't he just reduce his body fat? It goes back to culture, it goes back to education. Knowing about nutrition, knowing what they're supposed to do, making that link, education. Okay, we carry on. Now this is really worrying, and this is, again, goes from our other data, is that we have terrible bone density in jockeys, and it's down to chronic weight making, poor nutrition, lack of micronutrients, potassium, sodium, all the things that you need, all the calcium, vitamin D, all those things that drive the metabolic rate of bone healthily was down in the diets when we looked at them. And look at these levels of bone density in the hip. The hip density in the male jockeys was significantly lower than the females. But when you compare them to other athletes, boxers, weight-making athletes, not footballers, not darts players like Gary used to do. Boxers, rowers, judo, karate, their bone density is through the roof. And we have a hypothesis why that is, because of jockeys don't perform that much weight-bearing exercise. So we've tried to change that with some of our interventions. Because if you think about it, you're just sitting on a horse all the time. You're not really doing that. And you want the osteogenic stimulus to regenerate bone in a healthy way. But there's no point in regenerating bone if you haven't got the micronutrients to feed the bone to make it healthy. So there's big problems lies there. Okay, same with the lumbar density. We saw the same thing, significantly lower lumbar. Now, if you're riding a racehorse at 35 mile an hour over the jumps, or 42 mile an hour on the flat, these are the athletes that need good bone density, because if they hit the floor, they're going to crack. And we know that the risk of fracture is through the roof in jockeys, and it's all down to the fact that they have the worst bone density of any athlete group I have ever seen. And that's including all weight-making athletes, boxers, karate, judo, anybody, rowers. Let's continue, and you'll just see that on this slide what I'm saying. I'll put it into where you see the normal athletes, where you see the minuses in the hip and the spine, in the jockeys, and in good health in normal athletes. And this is, again, from our recent study. And you'll see these jockeys were presented with osteopenia. Osteopenia is the precursor to osteoporosis. You don't want to be getting osteoporosis when you're 26 years old, so you sitting in a sweatbox and not feeding yourself right is not conducive to good health. Plus, as a female, dehydration, poor nutrition, obviously females have different physiological, let's say, how do I say this in a nice way? Females have a monthly cycle which has to be healthy. Well, we know that female jockeys from other research are amenorrheic or have irregular menstrual cycles, and it's all down to nutrition. You see it in elite distance marathon runners, females, who are very, very thin. Similar things. So what we then looked at was the problems with hydration. The jockeys come to the university. This is on a day when they weren't race riding. And if you look at the data, the male group were dehydrated. They weren't even riding that day, yet they presented with in a dehydrated state. So jockeys are chronically dehydrated. Luckily enough, the females weren't, which is good. So that would suggest that from us, that the jockeys, because the male jockeys are riding a lot more, they are chronically dehydrated, whereas the female jockeys may be acutely dehydrated, okay? Because obviously you might not have to sweat as much as the guys. So again, continuing with this data, we're going to start coming to some of the meaty stuff. But just to put the dehydration into context, when we've looked at the methods that jockeys use for making weight, most of them are classed as dehydration. So you can see where I've put the dehydration across fluid restrictions, sauna, salt bath, hot bath, sweatsuit. It's that rapid weight loss to make weight, and it's actually endorsed by the racing authorities because they let them do it. Nobody checks the jockey's hydration status in the UK in the weighing room. But correct me if I'm wrong, in Ireland they banned the sauna, is that correct? In Ireland? No? Can you still get in a sauna in Ireland? I thought Irish jockeys can't get in a sauna anymore.
No, they can.
Oh, they can?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, in Ireland as well then. Is there any other countries in the world that have a sauna, apart from Canada and the USA?
Australia have the sauna, but it's regulated.
Okay, so Australia have a sauna, and you were saying it's regulated, so they check their weight, which I think is what...
Check their weight, but also check their time in the sauna.
Time
You're
in the
only allowed
sauna.
to use the sauna, and you must attend a sauna seminar before you're allowed to use it.
Okay, well, that's a bit more than we have in the UK, but again, I go back to this point that it wouldn't be allowed in any other sport. Boxers have to make weight 24 hours, even 36 hours before, and they are checked for their hydration. If they present for, I think it's 3 or 4 kilos over, they're not allowed to fight, because they realise, obviously, dehydration, particularly for a boxer getting punched in the head, the last thing you want is be dehydrated. So we'll continue with the data. And there's just a slide just to show you that it is cultural. That's the 1972 Grand National Party. And look at the jockeys all sitting in the sauna with champagne. You were talking about Lasix, Corinne. You were talking about Lasix. Similar thing. Alcohol is a diuretic, we know that. So dehydration. That's still going on today. So what we know, it's 2015, this was 1972. What I was really interested in was this last couple of slides, folks, so just bear with me, but I think you'll find this really, really interesting, because I think it's the first time with jockeys, it's the first time such data has been presented. Your metabolic rate, your resting metabolic rate, how many calories, how much energy a day you need to live. By just lying for 24 hours and doing nothing, how much energy you actually need to keep you alive. Now, there's some pictures, there's an apprentice jockey, there's Haley again, having a sleep, and there's our jockeys in our labs, one testing, running up the treadmill, another one doing a resting metabolic rate. What we found was, as we expected, the lean mass, the muscle mass of the male jockeys was far greater, significantly higher than the females. You'd expect that. Even though their body mass was similar, the women had more fat, the guys had more muscle mass. Normal, that's what you see in normal athletes, okay? Now, and it was significantly more. But when you look at the rest of metabolic rate, this is unheard of. It doesn't happen in normal society. Males do not have lower resting metabolic rate than females because they have more muscle mass. Muscle mass dictates that you burn more calories because muscle needs more energy. How, therefore, can we explain male jockeys having a lower resting metabolic rate than females? Well, the most likely reason is because they are so used to starving, food deprivation, than the females. That's the only way that can be explained, because you cannot lose weight forever. You'll die. So what happens is your body learns to live on as minimum as it can. And these slides, these data are testament to that. Male athletes with a lower resting metabolic rate than a female athletes is unheard of in any other sport, but not just in any other sport. If you look at studies in normal populations, here's a study by Buchholz from 2001. This is a legendary paper. He got 30 normal, active, healthy males, 30 normal, active females. They weren't the same weight, but when he matched them for weight, males have a significantly higher resting metabolic rate than women. If I'd done a test on this audience, for instance, the males would have, I would put a bet on it. We're allowed to bet in Poland, aren't we? Can you bet in Poland? Yeah. Anyway, I'll put a bet on it that the males will be higher than the females. So this is your normal data. This is what you see. You see a higher resting metabolic rate, because men have more muscle mass than women. But our jockeys are the other way around. Males have a lower resting metabolic rate. Now, when we done our previous study, which is getting published in the International Journal of Sports Medicine, it comes out, I think, this month. What we found is that just shows you that there was differences in the body mass significantly. When we done our intervention study by feeding the jockeys 6 times a day, and I know Gary's going to talk a little bit about this, because he's actually been on a similar type of diet, the male jockeys' resting metabolic rate went up. It significantly improved, and one female jockey we had on a study, by 400 kilocalories a day, about 1 megajoule a day. It actually went up. So the irony was, the more you ate, if it was the right food, the right macronutrients, your metabolic rate goes up because you're feeding your body, and that's exactly what you'd expect. Okay, so that's the interesting data, and that's what I'd like to put out to the audience. I mean, that's what we found with the latest study, which hopefully will get published as well. I'd just like to say thanks again to Lara and our backers, Sheikh Mansour, and the festival. And there's our team. We're a bit low on females, folks. I think we need to get a few more girls in our crew. The good-looking fella in the middle in the blue jacket, that's me. And there's our collaborators. We've got Dr. Phil Pritchard. The greatest jockey in the world, as far as I'm concerned, he told me to say that, was Franny Norton, because he boxes, and he said he'd punch me head in if I never. And also Dr. Costas Papageorgiou, our clinical psychologist. Okay, thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
It is very interesting, George. Obviously, once I knew that I was going to be part of this panel again, I rang George up and we sorted out that I would be sent the food that the jockeys that have been tested with have been given. So we've got a breakfast, a mid-morning snack. It was varied. It varied from day to day, but it was only 2,000 calories in total. I went for a morning run every morning. Had a green tea with every meal as well. Still got a couple more weeks to go when I go back to the UK, but in total, in 3 weeks, I lost just over 13 pounds, which obviously means I had a lot to lose to begin with anyway, but it proves that, you know, the answers are there, and I think if with a little bit more sort of education, it would become quite easy.
I think the message to take away from this, folks, is it's not just for jockeys. If you want to lose weight, from scientific research, our research, we know that your most effective time to lose body fat is when you fasted, first thing in the morning. You've been asleep of an evening. You've been using your hepatic glucose, which is your liver glucose, to keep you alive. Your liver's now empty of fuel. So when you get up, you've only got a finite level of fuel in your muscles, which is muscle glycogen. So your body will not want to use that because of normal, it'll think, I'll need that throughout the day. So to increase lipolysis or lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fat, go and do some exercise, which you are genetically coded to do anyway as a hunter-gatherer, because that's what we are. We need to get up and move, and that's why you'll strip body fat. If you get up in the morning and have a big bowl of cornflakes, all you're going to do is push your insulin levels through the roof because your blood sugar shot through the roof. You'll get a rebound hypoglycemia, and what will your body do? It'll store the sugar as fat. So, message is, get up in the morning, do some exercise, and then eat frequently throughout the day. It's about the food frequency and composition. And the easiest way of remembering this is, if it grows on a tree, it grows in the ground, or you can kill it, eat it.
Interesting stuff, George. There's a point I wanted to mention, actually, Chris, that I didn't realise even existed in Australia. You were talking about sauna seminars, and also you're only allowed to go in the sauna for a certain amount of time, which I don't know if there's any other countries in the world that race where that is actually the case.
Well, that's the case that I last remember. I haven't been back to Australia for 2 years. I haven't worked in Australia since then, but as far as I know, it's still the same. Yeah. Yeah. But but we haven't got that far in Turkey. It's still open slather on the sauna.
I'm sure we could probably all agree. I know there'll be some probably old school jockeys in here that were probably used to back in the heyday of the 60s and the 70s, certainly in the UK, losing 10 pounds in the Roman baths before going racing or whatever, and living a different kind of, how should we say, lifestyle. But I think we could probably all agree that that is something that could be, or probably should be, universal.
Well, when I started in Turkey, I was given a tour of the jockey's room, and they said, come and have a look at the sauna. And they opened the door, and all the old jockeys are still there. All the old jockeys, 60, 70 years old, they're still with their mates in the sauna. So it's a little bit like the slide you showed before. It's a little bit of a party in the sauna.
And I'll go back to George now. With the research that we've done, some of the jockeys that have been on this, I mean, it's all right, very well saying that I've lost weight doing it, whatever, but in terms of Franny in particular, he's ridden over 1,000 winners, ridden for 27 years. He's on course at the moment. I know he's been on this for a year now, but over the last year he's had more winners numerically, and he feels better than he ever has done.
Yeah, and it's the sustainability of it, because it's not a fad or a fashion diet, because I could guarantee everybody in this room has probably had a brush with a diet. You know, somebody will say, go on the cabbage diet. If you eat cabbage, you're going to lose weight, aren't you? Let's be honest. But you could sustainably eat cabbage all our life. So it's not a fad or a fashion. It's about sound, solid, peer-reviewed science, and I can only speak as a scientist, that we know from research what the most effective ways of reducing body fat are. And you don't need a PhD to understand that generally, if you do stick to that sort of old adage of, you know, take it off a tree, pick it from the ground and kill it, eat it, it works. It works because it's not processed by somebody putting a label on it and adding a load of sugar to it and a load of trans fats to make it taste good. That's going to get in the way of your normal daily function and cause all the problems, all the other pathophysiological problems that we see. I mean, it's criminal that there's more people in the world who are dying because they're overweight than there are of people who are underweight. Now, both things are criminal, don't get me wrong, but how obscene is it that more people are now dying in the world, in the Western world, of obesity-related diseases than people who are starving? It just makes no sense whatsoever. So it rings true for all of us in this room. If you follow a healthy diet with fresh, good nutritional food, you should be fine. And it's no different for jockeys. It's just about education and getting away from those cultural habits.
And again, that's the thing, isn't it? We keep going back to it, but mentally, certainly I think probably from a lot of the jockeys in the UK's point of view, they've got to try and get it into their head that they can actually continue to eat and eat more than they have been doing of late, because we can get very set in our ways, and that's the thing, the education, as we say, is key, but I think a lot of it's up top as well.
Yeah, just quickly, yeah. Again, we've seen a cultural change in the UK. We are being inundated with jockeys in the UK, but now, Ireland, all the amount of Irish jockeys I've had phone me, because I've been working with 2 professional Irish jump jockeys, and we've had great results with one of them, and the word has just spread. And you could say, well, you know, things like that happen, don't they? Everybody wants to try it. But the amount of people who are actually buying into this now and seeing that you don't have to starve yourself and you don't have to dehydrate yourself and you don't have to sweat every day, because there must be nothing worse. And I rode many years ago as a jump jockey, only as an amateur, because I'm a big lad, you know. But I've starved myself and I've done all those things. And it's not nice. Being without food is not nice, and having that daily challenge, it's horrendous. And the mental damage that you're doing to yourself, you know, it really is. It'll live with you for the rest of your life. I mean, we got that many English jockeys who've come to us and said, I'm at the end of my tether, can you help me? Now, when someone knocks on your door and says, can you help me? It's a lot easier to help them than knocking on their door and saying, I can help you. So the fact is that there is a sea change in the UK, and I don't know what it's like around the rest of the world, but, you know, I'm willing to find out. If any jockeys want to come and see us, we've got an open door, give us a shout, get my number. And all females, yeah, males, all amateurs, professionals, give us a shout. I'm sure we can try and help you.
And Chris, what probably shows some of the study that George has presented there, is that kind of similar in terms of some of the research that you do with your jockeys?
Yeah, it's similar. George is making a lot of sense in what he says, because until we as I said before, we're doing a great job educating in the apprentice schools, but until we educate the racing community, and we're such a tight community that the word of mouth and some champions for the cause will help greatly. So as we start to educate and probably regulate a little bit as well, things will make a big difference. When I was in Australia, our apprentice director wanted to change the food in the jockeys' room, because he was doing a great job with the nutritional program. So he said, let's change the food in the jockeys' room. We'll take out the Coke, we'll take out the French fries, we'll take out everything. And he did, but he didn't tell anyone. And there was a massive outcry. But over time, with the work that he did and others did, and that Mel and her team have continued over the years, there's been a change in Australia, and it's really about the education, but working with the racing community and getting that word of mouth out.
You know, that's the thing, isn't it? Obviously, you said it's taken sort of how long for the complete sort of change, did you say, sorry?
Well, the change probably still isn't complete. There's
right.
I would still think there's the occasional jockey wrapped in plastic bags driving his car with the heater on, so it's probably not complete. But the majority, I think, the majority of the education it's an ongoing program, but it takes years.
And Ahmed, as I said, you've ridden all over the world. In terms of racecourse catering for jockeys, how do you find it varies from country to country?
Well, like I say, you know, is always is different. I've ridden in more than 18 different countries, so I find some places more harder, and some places more easy or even to ride in. But like you say, like some of the countries very hard for the jockeys because have one meeting in the week, and riding 2 horses in morning is not enough. And some countries like England, we have 6 meetings in the day. We have 7 days races, so it's more easy to keep your weight down in England. To be riding like, for example, in Hungary, but the best I ride in there is 1 meeting in the week. Some of the country have 2 meetings or 1 meeting in 2 weeks. This is good, more harder. It's more easier when you continue just riding.
And again, that's, as George was saying earlier, it's all about keeping that metabolic rate up. Jessica, again, as I say, you've ridden all over the world for a Gentry champion a couple of years ago. How have you sort of found the race course catering from country to country?
It's totally different. I don't know. It's, you know, also the life when I was amateur and when now I'm jockey. That's all. It's difficult because when I was amateur, it was more easy to have a good form, and now that I'm jockey, is more difficult because I'm living in very hard country, and so I can't to have every day a good form and good weight, and all countries are really totally different, and also about the weight and everything.
That was interesting again. And Sarah, we're back to that unfortunate incident a couple of weeks ago where one of the lady jockeys tweeted a picture of the food that was left for her in the weighing room at Racecourse in the UK. In terms of the overall sort of members that you work with, how can we improve that?
Education.
And obviously you do work, I'm sure, with all the racing colleges as well.
Absolutely, yes, and they're great supporters of making sure that the right messages get out to jockeys from the very start.
And obviously, again, we've just got that problem of them maintaining what they're told, which is, again, the mental side of things, isn't it, unfortunately. Dr. Jamal, we mentioned that you've taken part, we're starting this research with some of the riders in Oman, and I presume sort of later on in the year we'll get the full results. What sort of vaguely are we expecting to find?
I think these jockeys, when they follow what's right for their health, they will have good muscle mass, they will have the proper fat mass and the proper energy. Because it's very difficult, as she said, that it's very difficult to find the proper food when you have a food catering. Either you have to stay with a food catering or just you will be on your own. So it's much easier to know what to eat, to keep in shape and to keep action and the good muscle mass.
And you'll be doing sort of similar tests as we saw with George in terms of...
That's what we are trying to do in UK, in UAE. That's what we are planning to do in the clinic for the jockeys. This will be a proper follow-up on all terms.
Okie doke. I'm sure, I would imagine we've got quite a few questions, so I'll probably open it up to the floor now. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. We have that gentleman.
Hello there, Dr. Hamad Al-Badi from UAE again. I would like to thank you for the
محمد
such a
هادي
great
من
effort in this study. But I have some issues. I assume the study is not published yet. No. Why not?
Sorry. The latest study is unpublished data. The previous study, which had the increase in metabolic rate, that will be published in the International Journal of Sports Medicine, the one I sent you, Lara, the proof. So that's been peer reviewed. This latest study, when it's complete, I mean, there's the groups, when it's written up and complete, will be once it's been obviously assessed by the Sheikh Mansour Festival, that will then be put for peer review in the scientific literature.
Okay, but from my point of view, the study is not blind. The volunteers or the jockeys knows that they are going in study. Yeah,
but it can't be a blind study because you're asking somebody.
Or at least comparison with others who are not involved in the study.
No, but I take your point. It can't be a blind study. There was no placebo. There was no control group.
Yes.
You couldn't have a control group for a jockey because there's no other athletes who make weight every day. So you wouldn't have a valid control group.
Yes.
So the idea was to just a comparison. So it's a descriptive study. It's not an intervention. It's a very descriptive study. I take that point. But it was just a comparison compared to norms, normal society, normal men and women, and even other athletes, how the metabolic rate of jockeys. That was one of the main findings which was of interest, was that male jockeys have a lower resting metabolic rate than females, which is unheard of in any other athletic population or normal population.
And did you take in consideration that these jockeys are not taking any medications such as furosemide or diuretics?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Did you take in consideration that these jockeys in general, including in the study, that they don't take any medications such as diuretics?
They all done a general health medical questionnaire, and we can only go off their, obviously, answers. But there was only 8 in each group, so it wasn't big groups. But to get elite professional athletes to commit to have a day at a university when they make their living and they lose money by turning up to see us because they can't race ride, to get them to commit to that is a very hard process, as you could imagine. But we just asked them, they were free of injury, we did test them for that, free of medication, we tested for that, none of them smoked, tested for that. We have done blood tests on jockeys before, but we haven't gone down the road of asking them, and we have tested for drugs before, but obviously that wasn't part of this study. But we did ask them for a general health questionnaire.
Thank you.
I know lots of jockeys smoke, yeah. These 16 never.
Do we have any other questions?
Thank you. Might there be any influence on the examinations by the fact that girls jockeys represent like normal population, normal female population, whereas male jockeys are already a very special selection in the male population by size and weight?
Well, on your first point, the female jockeys had very low body fat compared to normal non-elite athletes. So the normal general female population, we expect no higher than 28% body fat. So them being at 20%, I mean, you know, they weren't carrying weight, but in an athletic context, they were. So that's just the first point. The male population of jockeys in the UK, we have the tallest cohort of flat jockeys anywhere in the world. We've looked at a large numbers. We had one of our first studies, we looked at 37 flat jockeys, and they were by far significantly taller than America, Australia, New Zealand, anywhere, anybody we compared them with. So we do know people are getting bigger, but at the end of the day, on this study, we were basically looking to see, again, go back, a comparison between elite. We're not talking about somebody who has a ride now and again, one ride every couple of weeks. We're talking about people who are riding every day, and we've got the best, or we tried to recruit the top level. The criteria was that you were a senior licensed, flat, professional jockey, and we matched the group for weight as well. And that's what the study was about, because we wanted to see what the effects of chronic weight making are. But we do know that the male jockeys significantly rode a lot more than the females. But I think you don't need to be a scientist to work that out. You can see that male jockeys ride a lot more than female jockeys anyway. Okay.
Do we have any other questions, Denise?
Hello, yes. Hi, Denise Scalp from United States. I'm curious, I know they're elite athletes. We all are convinced and are all sure of that. But with other elite athletes in different disciplines, they have coaches, they have trainers, they have people so that when they do feel like they might lose that self-discipline, there's someone there to pick them up, there's someone there to encourage them. Has there ever been a thought that there would be someone that would be a real professional coach or trainer for jockeys? Like jockeys have their agents for getting their rides, so I'm just curious if there is such a thing. There should be.
I think somebody else can answer that. I mean, Corinne, do you have any coach or professional nutritionist who works with you 24 hours a day? You don't do it, I gather.
I would love to.
Yeah, but you're left to your own devices, but basically.
Yeah, well, and the main thing for me, like, I tried really hard to stay healthy, and I was doing okay. But then as soon as I was a few pounds over, everybody around me was telling me, like, you need to go in the hot box, you, like, take Lasix, it helps. Like, I didn't want to, but everybody around me was telling me that's what you do. So if there was somebody there to back me up and stand behind me, I probably would have stayed healthy.
But the point is really that jockeys will do anything to make weight because they have to make weight. They're self-employed. They don't ride, they don't earn. If they don't ride, they don't earn. They lose a winning ride, somebody else, Ahmed will jump on it and do the weight and he'll ride a win in a derby and suddenly Joe Bloggs, who was supposed to ride it, has lost out. So if Joe Bloggs has sold, run around with a sweatsuit on, starve, take Lasix, do this, that and the other, he's going to do it because he's not going to give Ahmed the chance to ride a derby winner. And nor would we, if you think about it, if that's your only source of income. Because if you don't ride, you don't go get paid.
Well, actually, yeah. Like, for example, when I was working with John Ox, 14 years ago, Johnny Murtad have chance to win the derby because John Ox behind him. You have to ride at the derby 56 and he was 60. So he told him, I don't give you any ride in the morning, clean all the boxes. So you have to clean 14 boxes every morning. After that, he loses weight, he gets in the horses, and he wins the derby. He was very good because John Ox is very good trainer. He was pushing behind him. If he was alone, I think he not do the weight and he not ride. Somebody take the ride and just win the derby.
Do you face any problem with weight?
No, actually, just sometime in the cold country, but my weight is good.
You're one of the lucky ones, aren't you, Ahmed? One of the lucky ones. I think there was a question over in the far corner.
I'm Dawn Goodfellow from the Northern Racing College. The comment about jockey coaches, as has been said already, we do a lot of work in the colleges on diet and nutrition and that kind of thing, but once jockeys go out into the big wide world out there, the influence of their peers becomes that much stronger. But the British Horse Racing Authority has launched a programme of jockey coaching, and every jockey that goes on a licence course now, professional jockey that goes on a licence course, will be offered the facility of a coach, somebody to mentor them, work with them, and those people are actually being trained by the nutritionists, and they won't be nutritionists themselves, but they will know what access jockeys can get within the UK. So it is something that I think we're working hard on, and we appreciate the messages that George is putting out.
And just to follow on from what Dawn's just said, we've actually had some great breakthroughs, and it's thanks to the Sheikh Mansour Festival and the funding. We've actually got the BHA now to change their nutritional guidelines, as you're aware of, Dawn. The PGAA, Professional Jockeys Association, and their nutritionists are actually following the Liverpool John Moore's research team's guidelines for the amount of carbohydrates a jockey needs and generalisations, but it's better than what was going before, types of food to avoid. So they've actually changed it. So there has been some big breakthroughs. Following on from that, the BHA have also want to fund a PhD student under my sort of leadership, and Graham and James, who are in our group. So we are making big strides in the UK. So things aren't as negative as possibly sometimes I paint. Actually, lots of good work is going on, and we are going to work in conjunction with the Northern Racing School and the British Racing School. So there's some good stuff going on in the UK. But again, just to say, I extend it to anywhere in the world. If you want some advice, and we'll share our research with you, and we'll help you as much as we can.
There's another question over in the far corner.
Yeah, Melissa Weatherly from Racing Victoria, Apprentice Jockey School. And yes, we've got jockey coaches and have a team of professionals around our apprentices, including nutritionists and physio, that they have access to from the day they start. So we've got good support, not just for their technical riding, but a lot of welfare support as well. I was just going to say, in regards to the research, it's great because a lot of training schools do use that now, but it's probably important to consider that you need to think about it before you take on apprentices. So we're really lucky that we have a lot to do with the employment of our apprentices and control over that. So we actually, after we shortlist our apprentice group, we then do our sports medicine testing, and we've turned people away who have been sons and daughters of jockeys and probably broken their dreams because they've had pretty low body fat to start. So we actually look at their body composition and work out whether they have got any room to move, because if they don't, that's really unfair of us to be taking them on, then expecting them to be doing that. So it's not very good for our welfare and well-being role as such with them. So it is breaking their dreams sometimes, but we're setting them up to fail in the beginning if we do that. So I think it's really good that people are doing that testing, and probably should think about doing it before taking apprentices on.
Well, that's a really, really good point, actually. Another question. Do we need another mic?
She normally doesn't need a microphone because she's got quite a loud voice.
Tomo.
But it is Miss Australia.
Thanks.
Actually, mine's not. But here it is. Okay. Victoria, over to you.
Tomo, thank you. Gary, hi there. Melissa, I've got a question from you. I'm Victoria Shaw from Australia as well. I'm not with RVL, but we had a scenario last year as I was the broadcaster at Sandown Racecourse in Melbourne, Australia, when we had the Sheikha Fatima bint Mubarak race for our female riders. Now, some of these ladies are amateur riders and some of these are professional. I appreciate coming from Australia to here in Poland, it's some 22, 24-hour flight. And equally, particularly for European jockeys coming from the Northern Hemisphere of the United States, it's equally the same distance to travel down under once a year. A lot of these girls, when they got to Australia, obviously when you get off a plane ride after that great duration of time, you do need a drink. And some of these young ladies perhaps went out and partied a bit much. There was a little bit of a time lag leading up to our event. And we had a scenario where one girl in particular was a couple of kilos overweight, and she also fell off a horse because leading up to the event, she obviously panicked and stopped eating leading up to a couple of days going into the race. What I would like to know, Melissa and Matthew, here as RVL representatives, is there any opportunity going forward when we have foreign riders in Australia, particularly with the Sheikha Fatima bint Mubarak, the girls riding from overseas, that your jockey coaches can take responsibility for these girls in Australia on our tracks?
I think we might need to take that mic over there for it to work.
Tomo,
yeah,
going for a run.
Here we go. Go, Gary. It's good. Keeps you fit.
So, there's another pound's gone.
Go for it, big fella.
Thanks, Victoria.
1, 2.
I guess, you know, we can only speak for the apprentice program that we run. Up till now, we haven't been involved with the ladies' race, if you like, and you know, the prior events prior to the girls riding in that race. So we can't really speak for that. We can only speak for the apprentices, you know, that come through our system. And yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, that's all we can really talk about, you know.
We're working together.
Yep.
Bear with us, Victoria. We're bringing another microphone back for you. I do apologise for the sound. We're working on it.
I would like someone to step up to take over this situation. I know Nadine Frampton, out of the goodness of her heart, has been looking after some of our foreign riders, but given there are cultural differences, of course, and such a long plane ride really isn't going to do me any favours today. A lot of these young people may be tempted to go out and party a little hard, and going into the event, there's a couple of days delay since arriving in Australia. We do need someone to keep an eye on them, and I would have thought that your inclusion here, or not you personally, Matthew, but RVL's inclusion here as a party to the Sheikh Mansour Flat Racing Festival for the Arabian horses around the world, that RVL do step up and at least offer some assistance when we require it?
I think that being a part of all the jockey schools working together now, and I think that's really what we're aiming to do, is to share best practices and information, and we've been working together really well to do that. And I know we always put a lot of consideration into any of our riders that we do bring to represent our country, and we're lucky that we send a chaperone along as well to make sure they're doing the right thing. But I think in general, to answer your question, yeah, we're working together with the other jockey schools around the world, and each time we meet, we've got more countries that are getting involved, and that's really what we're working towards, being able to do that and turn out the best young people that we can, not just in Victoria and in Australia, but globally, that are going to be good representatives for the industry.
I want to answer both questions, the debate here between Victoria and Melissa. Today, there's no difference between apprentice jockeys and ladies jockeys. They are jockeys. Sheikh Mansour Festival is responsible of both the apprentice jockeys and the ladies championship. So we have now, due to the fact that there's a problem, and we've seen many problems during the days, we will have a coach which is always he was supposed to be looking after the apprentice jockeys, but it seems that we do not want this debate to go through, because the girls are very important to us also, because the Series of the World Championship is the most expensive series in the world. So we will have Kai Chairman, who will be the coach also, not only for the trainers to take care of the apprentice jockeys, but he is the director of the apprentice school in Germany. He can take over also, if it's okay with him, and I'm sure he can do it for the girls, to be part of Sheikha Fatma bint Mubarak Ladies World Championship IFAR, because the girls deserve a chance.
Yes, I will do.
Let's go.
So Kai will be the coach, Victoria, for both series, not one series, because there's one umbrella, Sheikh Mansour Festival. And thanks for His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed, who has been looking and taking care of all the jockeys of the world, not only the apprentices or not only the ladies and not only the professionals, all the jockeys of the world. Otherwise, we are not conducting a research on diet, which is to weight and loss control with Liverpool University. This is for the second year with John Moores. And efficiently, we've put Nate with Dr. Hoot also, because also jockey needs to look after the allergies, not only of math and science. There's math and science and real life. So we really need to look after all of this in a combination of one word, 6 continents, Abu Dhabi, the capital of the jockeys, because this is where 440 jockeys by the end of this year will be in the capital of the world, only Abu Dhabi, to have 440 jockeys, professionals, apprentices, and ladies.
Thank you, Laura. Very, very well put. Do we have any more questions at all from anybody in the audience? No, I think in that case, Tomo, if I'd like to thank all the excellent panel here for not everything they said, but the excellent advice that we've received as well.
Outstanding. Can we give them a big round? Stand up. You guys were brilliant. Come on, all of you, stand up. Superb. You eat more and you lose weight. Thank you very much indeed. Gary, that was outstanding. Well, that was great. Did we all enjoy that? Yeah. And you know what we're going to go out for now? We're going to go out for a slap-up meal, because I'm starving. Listen, I hope you enjoyed it. There's stacks more still to come. We're going out for a gala dinner, would you believe, tonight. And then tomorrow we're back live here at 10:30. I do hope you'll be with us. I hope you enjoyed the opening day. Stacks look forward to. Stay with us. Okay.